So I'm here to talk about Google AdWords, but more importantly, I'm here to talk about what's more essential about the whole thing for us, which is revenue. And as Eric Schmidt says, revenue is what we need. So I'm the founder of what I consider to be the world's first Google AdWords 20k challenge. This is about making £20,000 up to £20,000 in 30 days with Google AdWords. No sale, no charge, commission only, no percentage of ad spend, no minimum budget, no contract, and it's for qualifying small and medium businesses only. And this is a very different way of the thing being done. Can I get a quick idea of who does what in the room? Who sells physical products, so things that go in boxes and get shipped? Okay, a couple of those, maybe.
Yeah, my partner, yeah.
Okay, digital products, so in other words, software as a service, memberships, subscriptions, you take an online transaction, so a few of those, thanks. The rest, I guess, is going to likely be professional services, so for you, time's money. So your consultants and advisors and all those kinds of things who are selling their time. Okay. Anybody running Google AdWords campaigns? A couple, a few, okay. Anybody who's been doing it, tried it and given up? A few, yeah, can't be honest. Because it doesn't work, right? You've tried it and you can't make it work. That's very common. Who's actually making money from Google AdWords campaigns? Okay, I'd be interested to know your numbers, your return on ad spend and the proof of that. So this just came out the other recently. Anybody been to see this yet? Ready Player One? I went to see it at the IMAX in 3D the other day. It's absolutely sensational at the IMAX. Apparently it cost £175 million to make and another £100 million to market. And I read that they're going to have to gross $420 million globally just to break even with this movie. So why do we think Spielberg would make a movie like this? Well, firstly, he's the only guy on the planet probably who could pull it off, but the main reason he did it is because he wants to make more money than he put into it. And that's the purpose of any movie, really, and it's the purpose of Google AdWords campaigns, is we want to get more money out of it than we put into it, otherwise what's the point? But honestly, when I look at campaigns with advertisers, I rarely actually see that. And the biggest question that I ask people about Google AdWords and how I work with this is, well, does it really make money? The focus is far less about what it makes and more about what it costs. Everybody's aware of what it costs. And what I find is that many businesses who are running AdWords campaigns, they don't really know whether they're making money out of them or not. So what happens is they try and spend less, and they're running their campaigns as a cost centre rather than as a profit centre. And the really interesting thing here is that this is actually Google's biggest problem and their biggest opportunity, because they want to sell more clicks. That's their business. They're in the business of selling clicks. But you guys won't buy them because you don't know what they're worth. If you did know what they were worth, you'd buy more of them. So what exactly is this AdWords 20k challenge? What's it all about? It's how advertisers like you, once you start buying clicks, can really know that you're actually making more money than you're spending, which is the point. And why did I do this? Why did I put this 20k challenge together? I've worked with advertisers since 2005. I've been doing this for 13 years. And the most common situation I see is that for most advertisers, AdWords is just really a rip-off because you're just spending your money and you can't see what you're getting back. A lot of people run campaigns and buy clicks because they see the competitors doing it, so they think it's working, they think they should be there. It's often nothing more than an insurance policy just to be there and show up. It's very often a grudge purchase. Like I say, it's often a cost centre. They don't know whether it really works or if it's making them any money. And then people give up on it and they say, oh, well, AdWords, well, we tried that, it doesn't work. But in certain circumstances, it can really work well. I know it does, and I like to prove it. In God we trust, all others bring data, absolutely. Data beats opinion. This stuff is digital, it's all about numbers, we can see what's going on. So data's great, but really at the end of the day for me, it's all about money. Money beats opinion, money beats even data. And for me, I think the most meaningful metric for advertisers who are spending money on Google AdWords is the money that they get back. It's not promises of what might happen, it's not busyness and activity with the campaigns, it's about the money that you get back. And for me, the fairest way to work with all of this is to pay for results and not just ad spend. I don't think it's fair that you pay fixed monthly fees or a percentage of ad spend, because that's not really about the result that you want. The result you want is for you to see the money coming back from what you spend. Excuse me. And I work on the basis of commission, so I've got my skin in the game just like you have. If it doesn't work for you, you won't get paid, and that means that I won't get paid. I want to change the way that people use Google AdWords, because they're using it as a cost centre, and that's not right. It should be a profit centre, and I've got successful clients who are working this way. Because at the end of the day, AdWords is really just a feature. The benefit of Google AdWords for you, the only benefit that you want really, is money in your bank account. So I obsess over what I call the money metrics. These are the important things for businesses. There's lots of data going on in Google AdWords campaigns. People who've worked with it can know this and see this. And I call these vanity metrics, really. They're noble pursuits. You know, it's useful and interesting data to have. But what I obsess about is what it's costing you, the revenue that you're making from it, your return on ad spend, which is the money you make divided by what it costs to get it. And when it's working successfully and profitably, we're all about market share. We want as much market share as we can get when it's working profitably. I don't think about this in terms of leads. Leads were mentioned earlier, and lots of businesses go after leads, get leads, get leads, get leads. It's like Lindsay was saying from Infusionsoft. If you haven't got the back end to process those leads, you've got to do something with these leads. You've got to turn them into the next thing, and then the next thing, and then the next thing, before you finally get paid. The truth about this is, he who can spend the most on advertising wins. So you don't want to be spending less and getting more traffic for less. You want to be able to outspend everybody. So I like to think about it in terms of transactions and bookings. So many times I've worked with businesses and they go after leads, but they don't really truly know what a lead is worth. So they don't know how much to spend to get it, because they don't know what it converts into further on down the track in terms of what they get paid. So there's lots of things going on in Google AdWords campaigns, and I don't think it's about clicks, it's about sales. It's not about click-through rate. These are all things that are bandied around in terms. People who've worked with Google AdWords know some of this terminology. It's really about conversions. It's not about your cost per click, that doesn't matter. It's about your return on ad spend. What have you got left over when you've bought these clicks? It's not about limited budgets. It's about impression share, market share, visibility out in the marketplace. It's not about CPA or cost per acquisition or cost per lead. It's about your visitor value, what they're going to pay you and how long they're going to pay you for, the lifetime. People talk about keywords all the time with Google AdWords. It's not about keywords, it's about revenue. Quality scores talked about, keyword quality scores. It's not about this, it's about your services, your products. It's not about stalking people with remarketing. It's about what your offer is, and when people come, will they convert and buy your offer? It's not really about campaigns so much as it's about your sales process. Again, the Infusionsoft thing was, well, okay, we can get leads, but what happens next, what happens next, what happens next, what happens before you get paid? And that really is quite a bit of hard work, but you've got to do that hard work up front before really you even start buying clicks. You've got to know how your sales process works. You've got to know when people come in, where do they go next, where do they go next, how long does that take, what's the conversion rate of each of those steps before you actually end up getting paid the money for your offer. So I say to people, you've got to really know all that and have it built before you even start buying clicks. Because what we're trying to do is make money out of those clicks and prove that it's trackable back to the money that you spent with your campaigns. So does my AdWords 20k challenge really work? Well, yes, and I've got proof. It isn't for everyone. You've got to do that hard work up front. You have to qualify for this. There are certain conditions under which it will work, and if you haven't got all the pieces in place, you're not ready for it yet. Here's an example of an e-commerce client, so physical products get put in boxes, shipped out. This client had no revenue at all to start with. He went to over $29,000 in 30 days, and he completely failed to sell any products at all because he was using a lead generation model instead of an e-commerce model. This is a digital sales client, and they had no revenue that they were tracking. They went to 57,000 in 30 days. They'd been going for 8 years and spent £2.6 million on clicks, and they never even tracked a single penny of revenue. So they clearly weren't going bust, but they couldn't scale and optimise what they were doing because they had no money data to work from. So services, professional services. I have an airport transfer client, been working with him nearly 10 years, grown his online bookings by over 1,300%, acquired 2 competitors recently. He was bought by an international operator. They turn a £5 booking to a bum on a seat, from the airport, and he gets over £90 revenue per booking for that. So how do we do that? Well, we start with the end in mind. The end is the revenue and the sales and the profitability. We don't buy a click until we know what we could be making out of it. So I start off by asking what I call the money questions. What you sell, how much you sell it for, how often do you sell it, how do you get paid, how do you know you got paid, how do we track that back to a click, how much money you make from this, and how much you actually get to keep. Services businesses are really all about bookings, because if you get a lead, you've got to take that lead into something else and something else and something else. That could be a consultation or whatever. You need to know your average order value and your customer lifetime value. Professional services, you don't want to see an empty calendar. You want to see a full calendar. That's your time. So can we get you fully booked? If we did, what's that worth? What's a full calendar actually worth to you? You've got to know what that is. And there's lots of different ways that professional services work to get that. I'm going to quickly run through some very common questions I get asked all the time about this. What should I pay per click? What should my daily budget be? Doesn't really matter when you're getting it right. I'll come into how you start up in a little bit. How difficult is it? You need to know what you're doing. It can be costly if you get it wrong. It's better to pay somebody else to do it who knows that that they can prove they know what they're doing. I had a Harley Street hypnotherapist say my agency left me broke, he took all his money, spent it, didn't get him any extra business. Really quite common. Do you need to be technical to do this? Really, yes. It is complicated. There's a lot of moving parts to it. Do you need a lot of money to get going with this? No. You can get started quite safely on a small budget as long as you know what you're doing. When you're successful, we don't care about budgets anymore because it's making us more money than it cost. Can you compete with large businesses? Yeah, often you can, because they don't always know what they're doing and they're not always current. They don't always track the right metrics, cost, revenue, return on ad spend. Can you really add more value to what you do than your competitors? Maybe you can. Perhaps you can undercut them because you've got a smaller operating cost. Is it like Facebook? No, it's very different to Facebook. Facebook is really about interrupting people who are hanging out with their mates. Google AdWords is based on 65,000 Google searches a second, according to Internet Lifestyles.
I love it.
Sorry, what's GAW?
Google AdWords, I'm sorry. I'm running short on time, so I'm having to hustle. I've tried it and it doesn't work. I've tried it and it doesn't work. Well, that's real common. And it's really all about following the money, like I say. People say it's too difficult. Well, it is difficult, but I'd encourage you to try again, but get some help, because you might have been quite close to actually making it work without realising. A lot of things here. So how do I get started safely? Go and ask those money questions and figure that out. Run very conservative campaign to start with on Google search. If you take phone calls as part of this, restrict your hours to office hours. Some techie bits here. Just use exact match keywords. Target PCs on. This is for people who are actually doing it now. Don't target tablets and mobile. Track everything, conversions and revenue. Buy 100 clicks, see what it costs, see what you sell. You get market data in real time for this. Sales are a bonus if it works. If it does, do more. How do we optimise and scale when successful? Well, not many people doing that, so simulator if you want to know. I call myself the Adwords money expert because I'm obsessed with money, the money that you make, not what you spend. I'm published on Amazon, 13 years experience with AdWords and 9 years experience with Google Shopping. We have an affiliate program. If you promote us, we pay you 10% of whatever we do. That's it.
We do have time for questions. Does anybody want to ask?
Yeah, I'll try and ask a slightly more intelligent question.
Yes, Scott.
So one of my challenges, as probably with a lot of people in the room, is generating leads. Because you showed a picture of a calendar, so my ideal would be my electronic diary full of consultations
Yes.
on the phone for people to speak to me about what I do.
Yeah.
And then the job of converting that to sales is my job. Could Google AdWords, generate those sorts of pre-qualified warm leads?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so what you're going for is you're changing your focus from a lead into a booking lead.
Yeah.
So you're laying out your stuff for people, and they say it, and you come and you read it and they like it. You might interact with you by a form or email or whatever, but ultimately you're trying to get that booking.
Yes.
Because you then, and people can self-service book, and that's what my transfer client does.
Right.
All his bookings are self-service. He just shows up at the airport and gives them the ride.
Yeah.
So it's really all about the bookings. That's ultimately what, if you're selling professional services in time, that's really what you're all about. Because you know your close rate from the booking to the amount of money, and you know what that is.
Yeah.
Johnny?
What's the 20k challenge and how do you qualify for it?
Pardon?
What's the 20k challenge?
What's the 20?
And how do you qualify for it?
Oh, there's a list of things that you have to have in place, and that you can find this on my website, davidrothwell.com. So there's a little tick list of things there.
I can share. Do you want me to share the presentation with
Oh, yeah, anybody can have this.
Yeah?
Yeah, anybody
So I
can
can
have
send you
this.
a contact
So
details.
just go through Raphael to have it. It's a Google slide deck, so anybody can have it.
Any more questions? Yeah, brilliant.
What are the trends you're seeing in terms of people actually clicking on ads? Is that trend changing?
It's just going up. Google searches just go up. So, the trends are just, the thing about search marketing, Google marketing, is that it's what I call the ultimate in permission-based marketing, which is when people do a Google search, they expect to see you. They expect to find you. They're looking for you. That's what's so
they're
different
actually
about it.
clicking on the ad rather than an organic result.
Google is making the page space of results more and more heavy with ad focus, because Google knows that's where the money is.
But there are users, because I think it was last year, 60% of people still didn't click on ads.
A lot of people click on ads without even don't click on ads without even realising they're ads. And Google does try to make them blend in. According to Google, ads are answers. So, those ads answer people's questions very often, far better than the organic results do. Could I just ask one? Of course.
I'll do a little bit of PPC, and I agree with everything you say. I think intent is what you need from everybody. So if someone's searching, they're actively looking for what it is you're doing, right?
Yeah.
But I take quite a lot of business away from Yelp, because when customers that I work with say, I'm with Yelp, they're running my PPC, I'm getting nowhere with it. I went and sat down with one of them, and I know you touched on impressions, but Yelp seemed to try and blind everyone with the impressions, and actually what I just said was, look, how much are you spending a month on your ads? How much does it cost for your item? And how many jobs did you get out of it? And basically they're a skip hire company, so they're a small firm. He said, Paul, if I go above £80 to get a job. So it's the number of clicks to £80. He said, I'm in deficit. And I'm seeing a lot of that from Yale around PPC. Would you have an answer for this group on how
Well,
they
I
should
mean,
look?
this is just so common because these platforms, they're just there to get eyeballs and visibility, and they think that's the ultimate measurement. And that's how, you know, I talked about vanity metrics and impressions and click-through rate and keyword quality score and CPC and all of this. They are vanity metrics. It's useful data to know, but you've really got to know how much it cost you and how much you made. And all this is digital commerce. It's all trackable and accountable, and the biggest challenge for businesses is joining up all these steps in the process digitally between the ad impression, the ad click, and the payoff. Now, with the Geneva transfer guy, he just gets a booking. So he's got a very, very short process. And you want to make this sales process as short as you can get it, because the more moving parts it has, the longer it takes, the more conversions have to happen between the steps.
Yep.
So you need a short sales process, as simple as possible, make it as self-service as possible, you know, get your bookings to happen from your online calendar, give people everything they need to know to make the decision to make the booking. And you can measure all of that, and then because you know your close rate from the call, the consultation, 60%, 50%, whatever, and your payoff, what that is in average terms. If you've got a range of products or services, you need to know the average, and you can work with that. You can track it back to every single thing. It's just the creativity and joining up all these pieces.
Okay, we don't have time for more questions.
Okay.
Thank you so
Okay.
much, David.
Well done.